Hey, I'm Isabelle, a motor travel addict from Quebec, Canada. I'm passionate about visual creation and documenting my travel adventures in my own authentic way. You can find my work on the YouTube channel DUSTnROAD.
Welcome to the Real Riders Podcast. My name's Simon Josie, and if this is your first time here, welcome and thanks for listening. Once again, I'm going to make this introductory spiel relatively brief, as my interview with Isabelle from DUSTnROAD is just over 70 minutes. Yes, I know I'm not doing a good job of keeping episodes under an hour in length, but what can I do? It's my guests. They have lots of interesting things to say. YouTube's algorithm helped me discover Isabelle's YouTube channel late last year, and immediately I knew I wanted to speak to her about her filmmaking. I had a feeling she would make a great interview subject for the podcast. You will make your own assessment after listening to this episode, but I certainly feel my own initial assessment was spot on. As always, if you have the time and inclination, please consider rating or liking the Real Riders Podcast in your favourite podcast app or on YouTube. This will help other listeners find the podcast. The podcast has accounts on multiple social media channels, but I generally only post to them whenever new episodes of the podcast drop. Please feel free to repost, reskeet, and retweet to help get the word out there about the podcast. A list of the Real Riders socials can be found in the episode notes. Righto then, let's get to my talk with Isabelle. Hello, Isabelle. Welcome to the podcast, and thanks for being my guest today. How are you? And I guess more importantly, how are conditions this early morning in Quebec City?
Actually, it seems like we're going to have a gorgeous weekend. So after our talk, for sure, I'm going to go for a long run and I'm going to do some filming as well.
Ah, okay. Is that your first filming of the season, of the year?
Yes, it is. I've been on a few rides, but it's going to be the first filming session. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get started. I mean, my interviews tend to run in a fairly structured format that is perhaps familiar to listeners. And I either start with asking about your origins in filmmaking or your origins in motorcycling. And today I think we'll start with your motorcycling origins. So let me start by asking how and when you got into motorcycling.
So my first experience with a motorcycle happened when I was 16. I was living in Belgium at the time. This is where I'm from. And you could get a 50cc bike without needing a motorcycle license when you turned 16. And I had been waiting for that moment for years. So because to me, already back then, motorcycles were like the purest version of freedom and adventure and badass life. So when I finally turned 16, I bought a dirt bike. However, no one in my family knew how to ride a bike, so I pretty much had to teach myself. And the truth is, I was a real danger to me and myself. I didn't know how to switch gear and, navigate corners. So after a few months, I got rid of the bike, to save my life. And it's only 30 years later, I went on a ride as a backseat with a friend, and it immediately got the fire burning again. It was like truly a revelation. And the same year, I completed my motorcycle course and got my license. And the next year, I embarked on my first long-distance motorcycle travel.
Does that mean that you did your formal training and your licensing in Canada rather than in Belgium?
Yeah, I didn't have any license in Belgium. So yeah, I did the whole process here. I learned from my viewers that like in the States, for example, they barely have any classes. You get your license pretty easily. In Canada, or at least in Quebec, it's a long process, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And is it quite expensive, that process?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Very much so, yeah.
I guess I need to keep everyone of my listeners happy in terms of what you're riding these days. So what motorcycles do you currently own or motorcycle? And what models have you had in the past?
So the first bike, as I said, it was the Honda MTX50. Then when I got my license in Canada, I had a very, very old Yamaha V-Star as my first official motorcycle. So I learned the hard way because it's not an easy bike to handle as a beginner. Then the third bike was a Kawasaki Vulcan S, and I love that bike. I put like 40,000 miles on it. Then I got a Triumph Tiger 900, and my current bike is a BMW F900R. It's a roadster, and I'm totally in love with that one.
What do you like about the BMW?
Well, I bought it after my crash on the Triumph Tiger, and I think it was because I'm still struggling with getting back to my normal self on riding after the crash. And I think this bike is so easy to handle that it was a perfect bike for me to gain back my confidence. And it's just so powerful. The geometry of that bike is amazing. At low speed, high speed, it responds really, really, really well. I have so much trust in this bike, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's so powerful. But then, yeah, it's very responsive, and it's very, very, very well built.
Having watched your videos, I do have to comment though, it's a little bit temperamental in humid conditions. Sometimes it doesn't want to start in the morning. Is that right?
I know. And I've learned in my trips, I would, sometimes meet with people with BMWs, and I will ask them the question, and some of them have the exact same issues. Yeah, I mean, my bike is a drama queen, so she doesn't like, certain type of weathers. And unfortunately, I have bad karma as it comes to weather on my trips. So yeah, but she always starts, she always ends up starting, but yeah, it can be a struggle.
Actually, talking about weather, because the 3 series that you've done on YouTube have all sort of been in the east or the northeast of North America.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a radio news report yesterday that was talking about an unexpected volume of, I think, hurricanes going to be affecting the east coast of North America, both Canada and America this year. Do you actually experience hurricanes up in northeastern Canada as well?
I've never experienced any. I've been here for 20 years now. No. You would have, like on the west part, you will have really strong winds, and there will be a lot of wildfires. I had to cancel a few trips to the west coast because of that. But no, in my area, it's pretty safe. Nothing extraordinary ever happens as far as weather.
Okay. But maybe just as we've seen on your trips, lots of rain, even in the summer.
I know it's either too hot, too cold, too windy, or too much rain. I have that kind of karma, That's what it is.
Yeah. You often express a dislike of gravel or dirt roads. But actually, your very first DUSTnROAD YouTube video, which was published in June of 2021, confronted that subject head on, showing you as a beginner participating in a adventure off-road motorcycle training course. So it's been a couple of years since then, obviously. What's your attitude to dirt and gravel roads now?
It's not good. And yes, I do talk a lot about it in my videos because it's a real source of stress for me. So a few months before the off-road training course with the Triumph Tiger, which I documented in the video you mentioned, I had a crash during a previous private course with a small 250 motorcycle. It was my very first experience off-road. My instructor and I had been riding for like 5 hours straight in the woods, and everything was going like exceptionally well. I felt really, really proud of and confident in my road technique. I was feeling the whole thing, relaxing my grip, letting the bike do its job, and focusing on my life, on navigation. I was killing it. And then in an instant, I was on the ground. I fell really, really hard. I lost consciousness for like 30 minutes, and I lost memory for like several hours, which is terrifying because it's not normal, And after that crash, I developed extreme anxiety. Like I would have straight panic attacks when riding off-road. I was okay on the tarmac, but off-road, it was overwhelming, but I didn't want to give up. So I took that additional course, the one in the video, but, hoping it will help, but it didn't. So before the crash, I had no issue, fear, apprehension about dirt roads. And now even a smooth, well-packed gravel terrifies me. The level of anxiety that I feel is totally overwhelming, and it pisses me off because I wish I didn't, it didn't have that much control over me, but it does. And fortunately and unfortunately, my road trips has forced me to confront my fears because I've had to ride on many dirt roads. These situations weren't planned, but they happen. And ultimately, it's beneficial. It's a good thing because they have gradually helped me feel less paralyzed by fear. And I still have a long way to go, and maybe I'll never completely overcome this, but I just want to reach a level of comfort that is acceptable. That's the mission, but it's going to take a while.
I think to be clear for listeners, the bike you're riding is a road bike. You're riding with road tires, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is incredibly difficult already with any sort of non-tarmac surface. So, yeah, I would say don't be too hard on yourself. When you did that off-road training, that was on the Tiger, wasn't it? Which is...
it's extremely hard. It's way too big a bike, and I'm it was not a good idea. But
yeah, but then it was extremely brave of you to put that video out then. And obviously you wanted to document it, otherwise you wouldn't have filmed the raw footage in the first place. My friends at the Trail and Adventure Motorbike podcast in the UK, they have a saying which is light is right. In other words, light bikes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going off-road, that's what it's all about. I have had very little experience of off-road riding myself, but I can see that, a big heavy bike is... You're really working against it, and with road tires, it's impossible almost. Yeah.
But I had the crash with the 250. So, and I want to go back on what you said about deciding to put it out there, and to me, I think it was really the start of being really authentic, and I'm known for that. The crew tells me all the time. I call them the crew, the viewers, and when I put that video out there, because in some of the scene you can hear and feel my fear. It's palpable. And I had so many people reach out to me and say, thank you. Because in the off-road motorcycle world, it's a lot of testosterone, and if we fall, it's okay, and it's part of the game, and nobody tells that part of the story that it can be fearful, and so I had a lot of people come out to me and say, well, thank you, because I thought I was the only person who was terrified, and now I know I'm not the only one. So
yeah, no, I certainly related to it as well. I mean, I've only ever had one off, and that was while riding in the dirt on a very small agricultural bike. And actually, for me, it was almost a sense of relief because I've been riding a motorcycle for a while, and this whole thing about falling off becomes, it's sort of the elephant in the room. You don't want to talk about it, but it's there,
right?
And I fell off, and I thought, phew, I've fallen off. I haven't hurt myself. I haven't damaged this bike. Yeah. It's done. Okay, I've had my crash. I can move on now. Yeah.
Right.
As motorcyclists, I think we often experience an immense sense of joy whilst riding. It's almost hard to describe. But I assume it's the case for you. And if it is the case for you, have you analysed why it's so joyful?
Well, beyond the obvious freedom aspect of motorcycling, which is usually the first thing that comes to mind, right? For me, there is a profound internal connection. When I'm riding, I feel strongly connected to myself, and I feel a sense of empowerment that really resonates within. Motorcycling challenges me, particularly when I'm on a long-distance road trip by myself, for sure. And there is this phrase that I've highlighted on my website, and it describes really what motorcycle touring means to me. And it goes like this: be unapologetically yourself, dare to explore outside your box, and stay in passionate pursuit of what makes you feel free. That's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's what motorcycle touring represents to me.
I have the same feeling, and I love going for a motorcycle ride. But after getting my motorbike, which I got a couple of years ago, my current one, I'd previously been doing a lot of bicycle riding, and I then went back and rode on my bicycle, and I thought, oh, I get a similar feeling riding my bicycle as I do riding the motorcycle. What is it about this moving through the world a little bit faster than we normally do if we walk or if we run or something? So there's something that's I find is rather engaging. And I have to have a shout out to Noel Tom, who I think put this idea in my head, is that there's something unique about moving a little bit unnaturally faster than we would be able to do. In other words, faster than walking, faster than running, which is unique to either riding a motorcycle or maybe riding a horse or riding a bicycle. There's something that sort of changes a little bit when we do that kind of activity. And it is different from being in a car, because in a car you're in a cage, but on a motorcycle you're exposed, you can smell things, you can hear things, things feel completely different. I mean, does that make any sense to you, or should I just completely edit out this question?
You'll decide for yourself, but it's an interesting point of view. And well, to me at least, I would get totally bored if I would have to go slower, just because my brains walk so fast, and I always wonder, okay, what's the next thing I want to see? What is the next thing I want to integrate? And it would be way too slow. This is how my brain operates, but maybe it has nothing to do with it.
And has that always been the case for you? You know, has your brain always run at 100 miles per hour, or is that something that's developed in later life?
Oh, yeah. No, this is the way I am. And, before doing motorcycle road trips, before I had my motorcycle in my in my 40s, I've always been doing road trips in cars. And I had this kind of same type of enjoyment. But as you mentioned, exactly, when you are outside of the box of the car, it provides a totally different level of enjoyment. But I've always been traveling and wanting to see things and explore, and it's always been my thing.
And further in that vein, sort of, I mean, all your videos, the 3 series that are on YouTube at the moment, they're all single solo rides. That's what it's based on. Do you prefer riding alone? I think you've made some comment about that in the videos, but you haven't really explained maybe why. But yeah, do you prefer riding alone or with others?
Yeah, I'm definitely a lone wolf. And in fact, I'm currently editing a video on that very topic, addressing the strong pros and cons of both perspectives. But as for me, I firmly belong in the solo camp. There is no debating that. And the primary reason is that everything we've just discussed, the self-reflection, the personal growth, the empowerment, I believe I can only fully achieve when I'm riding alone. And my very first road trip, the very first one I did after I got my license, it was with my boyfriend at the time. And I enjoyed so much that road trip that when I was back alone and I decided to go on a road trip alone, even though I'm a solitary person, it's easy for me to be by myself. I don't need to be courageous to do that. It's part of who I am. But the first time I went on a road trip by myself, because I enjoyed so much the first one with someone, I was, thinking, am I going to enjoy that? And surprisingly, I enjoyed it much, much, much more being by myself. And yes, in the video I'm working on, I explain, to the whole length why, but it has a lot to do about the introspection and just the empowerment that you get from going through all the challenges by yourself. You grow a lot out of it.
But then I have a sort of a follow-up question to that, because I know that you listen to music. And this is something I've talked about with a number of my guests previously, because I've said, I like complete silence. Of course, there's no complete silence on a motorcycle, but you do listen to music. In fact, you even dance along, as we've seen in a number of your videos as you're riding along. Does that not get in the way, or does it actually help with that sort of that feeling that you're generating as you're riding along?
Yeah, I understand the question. It can be like, doesn't make sense to, doing the self introspection and listening to music. I sometimes decide to turn off the music just for that. To say, okay, I need time for myself. I just turn it off and then I focus on the engine and my thoughts and all that. So I will take moments off the music just to allow myself to deep dive into my introspection.
Mm. And now sort of pivoting from the joy that you take from writing, do you take a lot of joy from researching and planning your trips and your routes?
I absolutely love planning my trips. I'm a planner. I'm an over planner for sure. But with the long motorcycle free winters in Quebec, trip planning really keeps my motorcycle heart beating. And I spent a ridiculous amount of hours researching the best roads, but my efforts have constantly paid off. I've had to resort to plan Bs on few occasions, but plan A usually turns out as breathtaking as an Evengen and sometimes even much more.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly do a good job of showing us on screen that you're not too stressed, that you're very sort of balanced in terms of, oh, well, this isn't working out, I'm going to have to do something else. So I don't know if you're masking that or if that's genuine, but, because that can be the problem of over planning, as you say, is that you become anxious about the plan not going to plan. But you don't convey that on screen. I would say you do a good job of appearing to be pretty flexible and easygoing.
I am actually, I understand what you said, that when you're planning too much, you tend to stick to that. But I actually think that the more you plan, the more you know your space and okay, I know because I remember seeing, oh, there is another road over there because when I was researching it. So it's not a problem at all. It makes it easier, I think, to overplan because I know there is other options. So.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling you touched on that in one of your videos. Actually, I seem to remember hearing you say that before. Okay, so in your first live Q&A session on YouTube, you emphasized a number of times that you are a creative. That was the word that you used. Can you please explain for us what that term means to you and why you choose to use it to describe yourself?
It's not so much about creating artistic stuff. It's part of it, but to me, there is more. So first, there is the thought process where I'm always learning new skills. I'm challenging what I already know. I'm exploring new ways to do stuff. I'm seeing beauty in little things. I'm connecting the dots in a way that is unique. So that's the process thought. And then I turn all these imaginative ideas into reality. And to me, being a creative is I create just for the sake of creating because it makes me whole.
Okay.
That's how I view it.
And has that always been the case? Like, is that something that you felt has just been part of you since day one, or is that something that you've recognized or has grown or developed in later life?
It's always been there, and this channel really represents like my best way to being a creative and to express that.
Mm-hmm. I love the ambition that you've exhibited right from your very first video on YouTube, and that's not always the case. You can often see people sort of put their toes in the water and just get into it quite gently. But right from the beginning, you have a very strong opening sequence, and straight away you're combining voiceover, talking to camera, on-screen text with a lot of graphics, and extremely sort of professional editing, I would say, that is quite aggressive in a fairly modern style. But it conveys a very clear artistic vision of the type of film that you want to present. So how did you come up with that?
Well, I think the experimenting phase that you're referring to, in my case, was a total accident, like literally. Between the first two videos on my channel and the real start of the channel, there is a one gap because I had a crash. And during that year, because I couldn't ride, I learned a ton and I eventually found my style. And here is how I did it. So first I watched hundreds of other YouTube, hundreds of videos of your other YouTube creators in the motorcycle touring field. And I analyzed their videos, trying to figure out what to me made them good or not so good. And to me, it was clear from analyzing those videos that storytelling was the common denominator, which worked out great because storytelling has always been my thing. I've been writing blogs and other form of contents years before diving into filmmaking. And I knew from the feedback that I received that storytelling was my strong suit. So from then on, I decided to focus on storytelling and build the visual around the storytelling. So then I watched hundreds of videos from other type of creators, nothing to do with motorcycle. And I would analyze their editing tricks. And I would note anything that visually grabbed my attention. Oh, I like this. So I would take note. And I did the same with professional Netflix documentaries. Those documentaries gave me a lot of visual inspiration. And once I built that kind of encyclopedia of editing style that I liked, then I watched hundreds of tutorial videos to learn how to actually did that. And then I added my own twist. So it was during that year, I really went through that whole process to come up with like the final my final style that you see, that you're talking about.
Wow. I mean, that is, that sounds very textbook. It's like if you were telling someone how to do it, it would be exactly what, yeah, that seems to be effective. But how long was it? Like, how long were you unable to ride? Like, how long did that process take?
Well, technically, it took about, I would say, maybe 6 to 9 months. But then there is winter. So that's why it took a whole year. Because when I was ready to ride again, we were in the middle of winter. So I had to wait for the next riding season.
We talk about coverage in filmmaking, which is making sure you've got enough footage from different angles to make something interesting. Is that something that one of the things that you learned that, I'm going to need to get multiple camera angles on the same thing in order to be able to tell the story in an interesting way visually?
Yes, from watching the other creators' videos, this is something that I picked up on. And the thing is that sometimes I just don't have enough time while I'm traveling to do as much as I would like to. And sometimes it's just not possible. When you see those really nice shots where, you put the camera someplace and then you drive by, those are really nice shots. But I mean, sometimes it's just not possible because there is no place for you to stop safely. There is no place for you to leave the camera because then you have to, someone might steal it. Or for many reasons, sometimes it's really, really challenging when the YouTube creators that are documenting their off-road riding is different because when you are off-road, you can stop wherever you want. There is no rules, But when you are doing on tarmac, it's way, way much harder to just stop and, So that's a struggle. But yes, I know I have to film from different angles. Most often than ever, very, very frustrated because I cannot do it the way I would want. And sometimes, when I'm traveling, I don't worry about weather because I know it's going to be bad because I'm used to it. I don't worry about getting lost because I know I'm going to get lost. I really worry about not having enough footage. It's on my mind all the time. Will I get the right footage to tell the story? And it's what keeps me awake during my trips.
And just on that, do you shoot a lot of coverage that you don't use, or are you very sort of disciplined about, okay, I need this kind of shot, therefore I'm going to shoot this section, but not something else? The reason I ask this is that one of my previous guests, Joe Ryan, he was talking about basically every shot he takes is very deliberate. So he knows more or less what he wants, but he's very deliberate about how much footage he captures. But what's your approach?
I think it really depends on what type of filming you're doing. If you're filming a travel video, you cannot do any planning because you don't know what's going to happen. So you kind of have to film. I don't know what the story is going to be. So I have to film everything until something happens, and then I have to continue filming until something else happens, and then I decide what the story is. I'm getting better at not filming too much because then I have to go through hours and hours and hours of footage. So there is that. When you're traveling, there's no planning. The kind of video I am going to do from now on, there is going to be planning and there is going to be scripting, and I will know exactly what kind of shots I'm going to do. So it's going to be different. So there is the travel videos I cannot plan, and there is the documentary style informative video I'm planning on doing next. I will be able to do that. So it's two different, very different situations.
What's the motivation for changing or not changing, I guess, so much as trying the documentary style?
I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a documentary type of person. And well, there is two reasons. I think it's because it will fit the best to my style. I think you can have both. You can have in one video, it can be a documentary style that is also inspirational, informative, and it can tell the story of a trip. You can have, all of that together. But I think it will fit more to my style because I realized that after documenting a few trips, the traditional format of, okay, I wake up, this is the start of the day, and until the end of the day, I'm kind of tired of that format. I want to move on from that format because sometimes I don't want to talk to the camera in the morning and I just want to write, and it's just repetitive. I find it repetitive. So this is why I'm working out right now a new format. So I'm going to have two types of video. I will still document my travel video, but it's going to be in a different format. I don't want to do the morning to the evening type of video. So I'm still figuring out how I'm going to do it. And then there will be the fully documentary type of video, which will be informative video. And also, because it's going to represent my style very, very well, I'm going to go off the charts with the editing style. I'm going to have much more fun in this type of format with the documentary style, with the editing. I'm going towards the Kill Bill, Tarantino type of storytelling. I'm never going to reach that level. But this is where my head is going. That kind of all over the place, but still telling the story. A bit, off the grid kind of style. But I have a long way, to go to get there. But this is where my brain is going. And also because as YouTube's algorithm is working, informative video where people learn stuff tend to do better than just inspirational videos. So I want to try this format.
I think it's fair to say that you don't take yourself too seriously. That's at least how you convey yourself in the films, particularly through things like the employment of on-screen text. You make little, not sarcastic, but little humorous comments and things, correcting yourself when you've said something. And, it's a lot of fun to watch. But obviously you do take the filmmaking and the motorcycling seriously. And I personally find that very engaging. Is that a good reflection of your character, your personality, or are you projecting this entirely? I mean, are you someone away from the screen who doesn't take yourself seriously, but say takes the work very seriously?
Mm-hmm. I really, really appreciate that question. So the only thing that is deliberate about this whole thing is the fact that I have deliberately decided to let my character and personality shine through without hesitation. And I'm an introvert, so I'm not after attention, which it's kind of silly since I have a YouTube channel, right? But I think most YouTube creators are introverts. And I'm just here really to express myself. I want to share my experiences and thoughts on life on the road and life in general. And it's crucial for me to do it in a way that is raw, genuine, and authentic, hoping it will connect with a certain group of people. And when it does, when people really get what I'm about, it means the world to me. And to be perfectly authentic and honest, I'm 51, and those videos represent the purest, most authentic version of who I am, and not just as a creator, but as an individual. Filmmaking has given me the way to not only use my best set of skills, but also to let my true and whole self be seen in all the good and bad. And those who choose to watch my videos, they totally embrace that. The being real and true to yourself. And it inspires them. And they tell me. And then I am inspired. So it's like a full circle, and it's just so powerful.
It sort of begs the question, do you think you could have done this 20 years ago, or is it really taken this time to get here? It's just the perfect time.
Oh, yeah. Really, yeah. And I think that all I've done in my life, professionally and personally, has brought me here. And no, it's the perfect time. I would never have been able to do that before. I was too much of an introvert. Now I'm still an introvert, but who has been learning to really feel comfortable about, speaking out and letting myself be.
I know I touched on it a little bit earlier, that your joy in the editing process, and you've said that it frustrates you sometimes, and you sometimes find yourself yelling at the monitor. But can you maybe dive in a little bit deeper and tell us why you enjoy the editing so much?
I guess witnessing the story comes to life in real time is just fascinating to me. I start the process with hours of random footage, slowly putting the pieces together, connecting the dots, and then creating a clear vision of the storyline in my mind and finding a way to visually express it. It's just really, really rewarding in the end, even though it's extremely time consuming, and it demands a whole lot of skills and behind the scene work. It's time consuming, and it's a hard job.
Before you started, did you have any sense of how much time would be taken in the editing, and how critical the editing would be for the whole process?
No, the reality is that I really have 2 full-time jobs. That's what it is. I would wake up at 5 a.m, walk like a couple of hours on DUSTnROAD, head to the office, then spend another 3 to 5 hours on my stuff once I'm back home every single day. On weekends, depending on whether I have my daughter, if it's winter or summer, I could spend every bit of my free time on my channel. And the thing is, you're talking about the editing, but it's just not about the video. The videos are only the visible part of the iceberg. There is the website, the social media, the newsletter, the merch I'm working on. And, I've had a professional career as a criminologist for almost 30 years, working many jobs in different areas of my field. I've never, ever had a job as complex and demanding as this one. And that's because, I know why, that's because you don't hold a position. You hold like 16 positions. You have to become an expert in everything. But I can't stop it. It's addictive to me. I kind of hate it. Yeah. I kind of hate it, but I love it.
And one thing that has impressed me particularly actually has been your sound design and the attention that you've paid to sound and sound editing. A lot of video makers discount the importance of sound when they first start making films and movies. Was that something that surprised you, that how important sound was?
I was actually going to ask you about that, because that's your thing, the sound editing. And I struggle. Now you're telling me you find the sound good, and I am struggling with that, because I I'm always trying to make better sound, and I cannot seem to find the way to do it. But then no, your sound is fine. I always found it was not good. So, but yes, from the start, I know sound is crucial, and I've been working really, really, really hard. I still don't get the sound that I really, about the voiceover. I'm struggling with the voiceover. But yes, I know it's crucial, and it's an area that is a mystery to me, how to do it right. I'm still struggling in every single videos. I know I'm good at mixing the music with the editing. That's I think one of my, how do you say that, my branding. It's my trademark. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But the voiceover is hard for me to edit. So you think it's all right? As a professional
I think it's pretty good. What I appreciate about it is that overall the mix is good. So to me, you're using your ears to make sure that things are balanced. That's what I've noticed. And I certainly picked up on your editing the music to the cutting. It's like, I mean, most people do that, but also the ambition. You don't think, oh, I like this piece of music, so I'm going to play the whole thing. You will play just 10 seconds of something or 30 seconds of something because that's all the story needs. There's this concept of killing your babies. And I think it applies both to audio and to video, which is that you may capture some beautiful shots or have some great audio, maybe some funny audio or something. But if it doesn't actually contribute to the story that you're trying to convey or put across, you've got to get rid of it. You've got to cut it away. And I think this is when I said earlier that I felt that your editing was sort of tight and kind of aggressive. I never get bored watching your videos because you don't hesitate to stop things and move on to the next, to put it bluntly. And that includes the music as well. And it looks like Nova Scotia or Prince Edward Island's a pretty windy place, and it's very difficult to deal with wind. That's what happens when you shoot video outside in a windy place on the coast. It's going to be difficult to deal with that wind. But overall, I think the sound is pretty good.
So I want to go back on the killing the baby thing because when I was in the process that I explained, how I watched so many videos and I tried to figure out what works and what doesn't, and the killing the baby part is crucial. And when I'm editing, sometimes I have amazing footage that I don't put in those videos because if they don't contribute to the story, it's heartbreaking, but maybe I will keep that and I will use it in something else, in the short form videos or in the bloopers but it's crucial to really, move on. So it's something very important. And as to music, I spend hours looking for the right track. And I never, ever, ever use a track as it is. I always, like I'm editing the footage, I'm also editing the track. I'm really trying to create the videos as a viewer. And because I have a lot of experience as a viewer, when I watch videos, I know when I'm getting bored. And so I always have that in mind. Okay, if it's not about putting my footage out there, it's about creating something that will be enjoyable for the viewers. That's what matters, really.
Yeah, I mean, I virtually everyone I've talked to have said that they spend a lot of time selecting the right piece of music. A question to you, what comes first, the music or the visuals? Do you ever find yourself going, I really like this piece of music I found, I want to somehow fit the visuals to go with this music? Or is it always story, the visuals that support the story, and then some music that complements both those?
Yeah, the music will complement.
Okay.
I will story first, visuals, and then music. But then even if it's in third place, if I don't have the music, nothing else matters. So it's in the process that I put it third. But in the end, everything blends together, and doesn't matter who's first or second or...
Yeah, but that reminds me, because I was watching something I think yesterday of yours, and I realised, oh, there's no music in this section. I think it may have been not Prince Edward Island, but one of those, the smaller island that you went on the ferry, and you went out to the lighthouse, and there were all the birds there, and you didn't make it cheesy by having music. I think it was just the natural sound of the coast, shall we say, and recognizing when not to put the music there is often, I think, just as important as when to have the music there, because there are videos out there that are just constantly cinematic music, which after a while gets a little bit tiring, I think.
Yeah. And when I'm watching videos, there are some videos I have to stop watching, because especially when there is a talking head part and there is music over that, and it distracts me. I don't like that. So yes, I'm very sensitive to that. And sometimes I just let the video speak for itself, and it doesn't need to be enhanced by the music.
So I don't want to repeat myself here, but we've talked a little bit about how time-consuming post-production is, and touched on how time-consuming the actual filming process can be. But I don't know if everyone really appreciates how time-consuming the actual filming is, especially when conditions are not favorable. For example, when it's wet, too cold, or too hot. Has it sort of now become second nature to you to basically capture on film, just like you have a sense that, oh, this is going to be something good to capture for the story, maybe a good thing or a bad thing, let me start filming it, even if you're feeling physically or mentally stressed? And I want to draw attention to your chapter 4 in the volume 1 solo motorcycle trip, where you tell us you became completely overwhelmed by the heat and humidity, and yet you still set up your tripod to capture you driving along the road. And then the bike fell over basically during a very slow maneuver when you were suffering from heat stroke. And but you still captured all of that, if not the bike falling over, but immediately afterwards. So I guess what I'm trying to say here in a very long-winded way is, have you really developed like an instinct, like capture? I need to just always keep capturing things, even if I may not use something in the end.
I know it's crucial for me to film everything, but it's hard. I have to force myself most of the time because of the introvert thing. But here is what I've realized over the trip. Talking to the camera while it's happening is kind of therapeutic. I'm venting and it helps.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking to the camera, I'm actually really, really talking to the people watching. I'm really telling, hey, you guys, here's what happens. And I'm viewing them on the other side of the camera. I'm venting to them, and it really helps. And second, when I'm editing and going through that footage, I have the best time. Either really, it's so fun to watch. Either it helps make peace with all the drama. It also makes me feel proud of myself, or it makes me laugh at how ridiculous I am. And you were talking about the on-screen text. This is usually where I would put the on-screen text, highlighting my ridiculousness, So it's hard, but I'm always happy I did.
You said that, you basically discover the story afterwards in post-production, but are you distracted as you're riding along thinking where the story might be? Is that ever a problem for you? Or are you just really out there enjoying the ride?
The story really comes together both during the trip and after the trip. Sometimes during my trip, after something dramatic happens and I'm back on the bike riding, I'm already brainstorming ideas for the storyline, and I'm actually scripting my voiceover already at that time, because I'm just all excited about what just happened. But the real magic really happens, after the trip, and I'm sitting in front of the computer and going through all the footage and piecing it all together. But the thinking about it is definitely already during the trip. And yes, it kind of takes away from the trip, but then I cannot help myself, and it's just fine. It's okay.
How do you organize the footage? When you're doing post-production, what methods do you use? Do you, like, when you're sorting things in your head? I mean, there's too much to sort in your head, I would argue. I would expect you have to have some method, whether you're using written form or post-it notes. What's your actually method of sorting out and organizing and identifying the clips that you want to use, and as you build the story?
Okay, so there is two parts to that. During the trip, so as I said, after something happened, I would already brainstorm in my mind. When I'm back at the hotel or the Airbnb, I would take note of the main point that happened that day first, not to forget, because then it's easier for me when I'm in post-production. What I would do is that I would have, so I have like different cameras. I have the camera on my helmet, the one facing me, the 360, my iPhone where I would film the off-bike footage. So it takes part in 3 steps. First, I will put all the footage together, and I would usually start by watching my off-bike videos, because those are the one where I'm talking to myself, to the camera. And this is usually where I get, okay, there is this happening. And then I would just quickly go through all the footage, and it takes a while to figure out, okay, what is the main story. Then I would start cutting, taking the footage and then the fine tuning. But taking notes during the trip helps me. It's easier when I'm doing the editing when I'm back home.
And do you take those notes electronically, or is that, you physically writing something down?
Yeah, I'm a paper girl, so.
Okay.
I'm old school.
Okay. One thing I noticed is you were extremely playful, I think, particularly in the beginning, but even still later in the later videos, about trying different camera angles and visual effects. I get the feeling that you've toned it down a little bit, some of the visual effects. They're a little more subtle than they maybe were at the beginning. But one of the things that I thought was really funny, it's one of the very early videos, is you were at a gas station, I think, and you needed to, well, you didn't need to, but you chose to go and approach a man and just ask for directions, I think, because you were a bit confused, or I can't remember exactly what the situation was. And you were holding your camera upside down. And so all the visuals are upside down. And like, on the one hand, you go, oh, that's very amateur. The camera's upside down. And you didn't need to include this, but you clearly deliberately kept it running. So can you maybe just explain to me whether I've got this completely wrong? What was your thinking? Why did you want to keep that bit in your highly produced, very well crafted video, the camera upside down? What was your thinking?
Well, I didn't know it was filming. I thought I turned the camera off, and then I put the helmet backwards on the foot peg of my bike. And so when I watched it, oh my God, I didn't know I have that footage. And I kept that footage because when I watch other creators' video, those shots are my favorites because they keep things real. And that's why I said, oh my God, this is a perfect shot. I'm going to keep it, even though it was not planned at all. But, as I said earlier, I'm very into creating interesting camera angles. But as I told you, I'm usually very frustrated because I don't have the time to do that. But when I saw that footage, it's like, oh my God, this is so good. I'm going to keep it. And yeah, it keeps things real and it keeps things interesting. And
yeah, I
think it's the best piece of footage in that specific video. That's the one that is all crooked. That's the best one.
It's fun. And you got to hear the interaction you had with someone else, which I think was also actually an important part of making that sort of valuable or compelling. Yeah. Given your commitment to always learning, I'm guessing there are aspects of your filmmaking that you are looking to develop and make better or whatever. What areas will you be focusing on during this summer's writing and filmmaking season?
So there is really 2 things I want to develop. First, there is the B-roll footage I really want to work on. And as I said, I don't have enough time usually to really do great B-roll footage during my trips. But because I'm going to work on a different kind of format for the upcoming videos, the documentary style video, those are planned, and I'm going to do them not during my trips, but here, at home on daily rides. So I will have plenty of time to have fun with camera angles. So I'm really, really going to deep dive into the B-roll footage. And the second portion, as we kind of already discussed, is the editing style that I'm going to level up because I'm going to do this documentary style kind of video. And also the travel videos I'm going to make, as I said, I'm going to make them different. So yeah, there is a lot of experimenting that I'm going to do this year because I know my viewers like the videos as they are today. So I don't want to go too far, but then I really have to trust myself. And there is one person, I mentioned that in the live stream, there is one person I was asking, how different should I do my stuff? And he basically say, just do what you enjoy and for sure we'll enjoy it. And I don't want to mimic the other creators. I really want to stay true to myself and take risk. And maybe some viewers won't like it, but I'm going to stick to who I am as a creator and go that direction to do things differently.
What we see with a lot of motorcycle filmmaking, drone footage has really come to dominate. There's a lot of really impressive drone footage, and the equipment is relatively cheap, and you can get some amazing visuals out of it, and it's quite intoxicating. Arguably, there's a danger to overuse it. Is that something that you have any interest in getting into?
I had one, and I got rid of it. I decided not to go that way because it was a small one. So you don't have to, well, in Canada, you have to have a permit for bigger drones. I didn't have to have a permit for that one. But because I have a YouTube channel and it's monetized, even if it's a small one, you have to get a license. And I could do that. That's not the main reason why I'm not doing drone shots anymore. It's also because part of the countries I'm traveling to, it's usually national parks. You cannot have drones over there. And if it's too windy, mine is too small, so it's not going to work. So I took this drone on a whole trip, like, a 4,000-mile trip, and I could use it only once, like for small footage. So it depends what kind of adventure you're doing, what kind of travel. In some places you can, in some places you can't. If you are off-road, again, it's easier to stop in the middle of nowhere and just, put the drone in the air. So it was just logistically a waste of time. It was complex for many, many reasons. So I decided to make my life easier and just forget about the drone. But yes, it makes amazing. But sometimes you said also, sometimes it's overused. So I kind of decided to get back to the basics. Maybe someday I will come back to it. But for now, it's too complex.
Yeah, I think it sometimes falls under that kill your babies topic where it looks great, but 5 minutes of watching this mountain or whatever, and I'm ready to move on.
Exactly.
Is there any other piece of filmmaking equipment that actually you feel is missing from your gear kit? Is there something that you would like or that you're planning to get?
Yeah, so I got 3 action cameras for the bike, including a 360. So I have different angle. So I'm all set for capturing those on-the-road shots. As I said, I tried the drone. I didn't keep it. I just bought a new microphone setup so I can talk while riding because I couldn't do that since now. So when it comes to motorcycle filming, I'm pretty much good to go. The only thing missing is a proper camera. Right now, I'm filming with, the off-bike footage with my very, very old iPhone. And I really need to get an actual camera because I want to dive deep into those B-roll footage. And I want to have the kind of B-roll footage where you have a strong depth of field into it. And I cannot do that with what I have right now. And this is really what I want to create, a film-like vibe. And I really need an actual camera. And the thing is that if I want a real one, well, budget-wise, I'm not there yet. So because I've spent, I've bought all the other cameras, so it's going to be another step. But yeah,
I mean, it's maybe testament to the value of the creative side as opposed to the technical side that you've been able to do what you have done just with the iPhone. And as you say, it's an old iPhone. I mean, it's pretty impressive, really, how good the videos are, given that you are just using an iPhone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the YouTube channel before we wind up. I'm always interested to ask creators what they feel works and what doesn't work when it comes to the material that they put out on YouTube. And I'm starting to wonder whether that's a good question or not, because I think the YouTube algorithm can be a little bit unkind. But from your perspective, what do you think works and what doesn't work?
I have no clue. That's a mystery. No, that's true and not true. So seriously, right now, I know for a fact that my main issue is that I don't have enough video published. I only have 21 videos, and I know that the YouTube algorithm thrives on data. And I simply don't have enough data for YouTube to figure out if my channel is worth promoting or not. And also, I know that YouTube wants people to stay on YouTube. They want them to binge watch the stuff. So when you don't have that many videos, it's not helping. They need really more content. And with my current schedule, I can only manage to publish once a month. So it's going to take some time before things start to pick up, if ever, but I think it will at some point.
Well, I can promise you that I've helped the YouTube algorithm a little bit, because I've certainly been binging your videos for the last week or so.
Thank you. And usually it's what happened. And the funny thing is that the first official, because I had like 2 videos before, but then when I really started with the really first official one, it went viral. And when I mean viral, I had like 65,000 views. For me, it's viral. For a brand new creator, the algorithm went nuts. And after that, it's all like about 1,000 views. It's all constant. And I thought, why that video? Well, this is the one where I tell the story about the crash. I don't intend to have another crash to have another dramatic video. So no, thank you. But I cannot replicate that video. The algorithm picked it up. And when the algorithm decides to pick up a video, it goes ballistic. And after that, all my videos have the same quality. So it's not that. There is something else. I don't know what it is.
I've seen exactly the same other treatment by YouTube of people that the very first video they put out does remarkably well in terms of view counts, shall we say, and then it drops down significantly, and it's kind of mean and a bit horrible.
Yeah,
because
it is.
It's like, well, what did I do right there, and what did I do wrong? I don't understand. And arguably, as people get better, as they just do things more, their work usually gets better, not worse. So I guess we'd have to ask YouTube, but it seems a little bit unfair. You've said that you find the YouTube creator community very supportive. Why do you think that is? Is it an extension of the motorcycling community, which many have said is extremely supportive or can be very supportive? I mean, what's your thinking about that?
Yeah, it could be the reason, but I actually don't think that's it. Because I see this supportive vibe in other communities too, not just the motorcycle creators community. Take, for instance, the criminal law creators I follow, because I'm a criminologist, so this is the only type of content that I watch. They are all about lifting each other up. And I really think it's because the YouTube creators, they are not playing the old corporate rules. They don't see competition as competition. They see them as partners and collaborators. So I see that in all the different kinds of communities on YouTube. They just do business in a different way.
I guess it sort of links into my next question, which is, what future plans do you actually have for the channel? What would you like to, I mean, do you have concrete plans, or are you just taking joy out of creating, or do you have certain targets or things that you'd like to achieve?
As I said before, I'm creating for the sake of creating because it's represent who I am and I cannot help it. But I have 2 full-time jobs, as I said, so it's it's very time consuming. The vision that I have is that I don't want to make money out of it, but the goal is to be able to quit my 9 to 5 job and do this full time because this is where my passion is. And in order to do that, I have to make money out of it. It's not the purpose at all. The purpose is to be creative, to express myself, and to touch people and to reach people who then feel inspired. And like I said, it's a full circle in the end. But this is my thing. I really found my thing. This is it. So I want to do this full time. And it's going to take years. It's a long process. And I've watched so much videos about being a YouTube creator. And they always say, you have to keep going, keep going. And at one point, you don't know why it's going to pick up. If you keep doing the right thing. So I'm doing, I think, the right thing. And if you do it consistently, at one point, it's going to pick up. But I have no ambition or whatsoever about making money out of it. I just want to quit my 9 to 5 and do this full time. That's really the goal, and focus on giving back to my crew and all of that.
Do you think there's a potential conflict in that, what you were saying earlier about at the moment, the most you can probably realistically do is publish something once per month. To do any more than that, are you going to have to make creative or artistic compromises in order to feed the YouTube beast?
Yeah, I would, and I choose not to. I thought about that because, I wanted to go faster, but I chose not to. So I'm going to keep doing it once a month because the kind of editing that I do, thinking that I have to write, to have footage, I have a full-time job and I have a kid and, all of that. So I've decided it's only going to be once a month and it's going to take whatever time it's going to take. But I am not going to cut my creative side because I know from the comments that I receive from my crew is that they really, really do enjoy my editing style and they do see the work that I put into it. They know I put my heart into it and I want to stay true to that. So the creative side, there is a balance you have to find, but the creative side and staying true to myself is going to be in first place, always.
Just a few final thoughts as we wind it up for today. I have to ask, as a filmmaker, who have you taken inspiration from and who do you feel has influenced you? Is there someone that you really would encourage other people to look at? And not necessarily in the motorcycle travel or motorcycling filmmaking genre, but in any other sort of genre or documentary style or whatever you really have found to be influential?
I'm not going to answer that question, and here is why. I'm not going to give names, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, because I've watched way too many creators, and all of them inspired me in very different ways, each of them. And my vision is that my type of creators might not be your type of creators. And the YouTube creator, the goal is really to find your own style. And so your mission is really to figure out by yourself what you want your voice to look like. Now I don't watch anything without a purpose. I cannot. Every single thing that I watch, whether it's a video on YouTube, a movie, a documentary, I watch it with a purpose. And you have to figure out what stands out to you and make it your own. So no, I'm not going to give you names. I'm not going to do that.
And I have to say, I respect the answer totally, and certainly the way you explained it makes a lot of sense to me. I've done 10 as we record this. I've done 10 published episodes of the podcast, and I'm starting to worry that I will show and reveal too much of my own personal taste because I also watch a lot of YouTube videos, particularly in this genre, as for research. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't like out there. And sometimes I know that there's going to come a point where I'm going to be talking to people, hasn't happened yet, but I'm going to be talking to people whose work may not necessarily gel with me, but certainly there's a massive audience for it out there. And I have to get beyond myself and find out what's interesting for other people to listen to them talking, what their motivations are, what their experiences. So it's not just, it cannot be about me at all. But yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from because, I know that there are things that I like and things that I don't like. And if you asked me, hey, Simon, well, who do you think we should be watching? I would suddenly also get very uncomfortable. I was like, I don't think I should answer that question.
Yeah. No, and also because maybe you would expect I would give like big names, motorcycle vloggers, and those would not be on my list for different reasons. So, yeah.
Okay. I've got two more questions. And the second to last one, I'm going to tease you a little bit about. And I know that this is coming because I want to ask you what your fascination is with bridges, because, you're very open about this, so it's not a big secret, but you are completely obsessed with bridges. What's your issue with bridges? And, okay, you better tell us, what are the characteristics of a good bridge?
Okay, so I have no clue why I'm fascinated by bridges. I'm almost a freak about bridges. I'll recognize that. But I can answer the question, what makes a good bridge? There must be no cars on it. And actually, no people. I want the bridge all for myself. Otherwise, I'm not interested. That's the criteria.
Okay.
That's my introvert, antisocial personality out there.
Okay, fair enough. Last question, and all the listeners know what the question is going to be. So, does the filmmaking enhance or diminish the pleasure of a motorcycle ride for you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I ask myself this question a lot during my trips. Why am I doing this? What am I putting so much pressure on myself? As I said, I don't stress out about the weather. I don't stress out about the route. All I stress out about is, will I have enough footage? And what if I don't capture the right footage to tell the story? So yeah, for sure, to me, it does take some fun away during the trip. But honestly, I would probably get totally bored if I wasn't documenting everything. And as I said, also the magic really happens when I'm back home. That's when I'm really glad I put myself through this. I don't know if it's a good thing, but I've come to a point where if I didn't film it, it doesn't exist. This is where I'm at. But as I said, also, I'm thinking about documenting my trip differently, where it's not as much invading and where I have to film so much from, the morning to the evening. So I'm figuring out a different format so that I can enjoy my trips more and still have a great story to tell for my crew.
Thanks so much for being my guest today, Isabelle. It's been a delight talking with you. Other than your YouTube channel, is there anywhere else people can find your creative work online?
So the YouTube channel is the main core of DUSTnROAD, but starting soon, I'll be posting a lot more on Instagram with short form videos. And I think there is so much fun to have with storytelling and filmmaking in this format of short form video. So I'm diving in and doing a lot more of that. And also you can actually sign up to the newsletter on my website. It's really the best way to stay updated about all the new stuff happening.
Great. I'll certainly be keeping an eye on your YouTube channel and the Instagram account and waiting patiently for new films. Thanks again. Take care and ride safe.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.